Day 2 of reactions to Gemini paint a mixed picture. On the one hand, markets woke up, but on the other, some people are disappointed that one of the most popular and exciting demo videos wasn't exactly what it seems. Welcome back to the AI Breakdown Brief, all the AI headline news you need in around 5 minutes. Well, friends, obviously the big story from this week was the surprise announcement of Google Gemini. We discussed in that immediate reaction video a little bit about how, while initially everyone's reaction was to be impressed that there was finally a GPT-4 level competitor, pretty quickly there started to be some questions. The much-touted MMLU results that showed Gemini not only beating GPT-4, but also beating human expertise, weren't really carried out in the same way that tests including GPT-4 were carried out, which was a little bit of a wet blanket on that announcement. And then on Thursday, a lot of the chatter on Twitter and in other parts of the internet was about how one of the most shared demo videos from the launch, which showed a company representative speaking to Gemini as it identified drawings in real time, was basically entirely edited and wasn't really at all what it seemed. The video that I'm referring to is of course the one where a human is drawing something that starts off squiggly lines and then becomes a duck, and Gemini seems to respond in kind, explaining what's going on, and then it moves to inventing a game, then it solves visual puzzles. Well, basically it didn't happen as it was presented, which made it seem like the person was just speaking to Gemini right there. Instead, as Bloomberg opinion columnist Parmi Olsen put it, Google filmed those hands doing a bunch of things and then showed stills of the footage to Gemini one by one. There was no voice conversation but a text exchange like you'd have with ChatGPT or Bard. Google's video made it look like you could show different things to Gemini Ultra in real time and talk to it. You can't. The voice you hear in the video is just reading the text prompts. So again, all of this just served to throw a little cold water on this, but ultimately the bigger point still remains that we just don't have Ultra yet, and until we do, there are going to be major questions. Yet at the same time, even though Google's stock price was initially flat on the announcements, Thursday saw a significant uptick as Wall Street digested the news. Alphabet shares ended 5.3% higher on the day, with analysts believing that the new Gemini model could narrow the gap with OpenAI and by extension, Microsoft. JP Morgan analysts wrote, Google is beginning to address investor concerns around generative AI and the high cost of running Gen AI models through the combination of Gemini's different model sizes. Other analysts noted that the introduction of Gemini comes at a time when some people are more skeptical of OpenAI's models. Wrote Macquarie analysts, Gemini's release comes at an interesting point in time where OpenAI and ChatGPT users have been complaining about how updates to the GPT model family have potentially impacted the quality of its output. If Google is shipping a GPT-4 beating model, this could help gather user and developer momentum behind Google. Now, staying in big tech land for a moment, Amazon CEO Andy Jassy didn't announce anything new, but in an interview with Jim Cramer, he did say that generative AI will, quote, change every customer experience. He said, if you've studied generative AI and you're still scoffing, you're really not paying attention. Generative AI is going to change every customer experience, and it's going to make it much more accessible for everyday developers and even business users to use. So I think there's going to be a lot of societal good. He also liked Amazon's prospects in the AI race, saying, we think we have a real opportunity to be a leader there, and we're in the process of building a much more expansive large language model underneath Alexa that will make her both much more knowledgeable and much more conversational. Is this the large Olympus model that has been rumored? We will just have to wait and see. Now, of course, it's not just the big tech companies that are exploring how to use AI, but the CPG companies and the restaurants. For example, The Verge writes McDonald's will use Google AI to make sure your fries are fresh or something. The fast food company says it will be applying generative AI to its operations starting in 2024. The TLDR, McDonald's is partnering with Google to bring generative AI to, quote, thousands of stores through hardware and software upgrades. That includes ordering kiosks, the company's mobile app, and data science that helps them optimize operations. The company claims one of the outcomes of that will be hotter, fresher food, to which The Verge says, it's not completely clear what that means, but we can read between the lines. Expect more AI-driven automation at a drive-thru near you in the coming years. The Verge also notes, quote, the McDonald's statement skirts the question of AI replacing human workers, mentioning only that the system should reduce complexity for store crews and that it will, quote, power exciting new experiences for crews and customers. There's a whiff of robots replacing human workers in the air, but some other research suggests that while very real, the value proposition of AI for drive-thru is actually driven by real people. Writes Bloomberg, Checkers and Carl's Jr. are among U.S. fast food chains hailing AI-powered drive-thrus as labor-zapping wizards that speed up service. But a popular provider of these systems recently revealed a crucial part of how it gets so many orders right. Humans. Basically, this company, Presto Automation, has a chatbot that's meant to take orders with very little human intervention. However, disclosures from recent SEC filings say that, quote, off-site agents working in locales such as the Philippines help during more than 70% of customer interactions to make sure AI systems don't mess up. This is a humans-in-the-loop approach to AI that I think we're going to see a lot more as companies figure out how to actually bring artificial intelligence into their workflows. Here's a wild one for a guy like me whose first AOL screen name in 1995 was Kurt C. Freak. The original bassist and founder of Nirvana, Chris Novoselic, recently served as the spokesperson for a Microsoft shareholder initiative asking the Redmond giant to study and report on the impact of its AI initiatives. Novoselic, on behalf of these shareholders, argues that Microsoft has rushed generative AI products to market and wasn't giving enough consideration to guardrails. In a recorded video message, he said, "When Microsoft released its generative AI-powered Bing last February, numerous AI experts and investors expressed concern. Many urged Microsoft to pause and consider all the risks associated with this new technology so that the company could establish risk mitigation practices. Yet our company raced forward releasing this nascent technology without the appropriate guardrails." Novoselic has apparently been a long-term Microsoft shareholder and added, "Generative AI is a game changer, there's no question, but the rush to market seemingly prioritizes short-term profits over long-term success." Now, outside of the weird pop culture connection of this, I think it's worth pointing out that if one is really interested in slowing down the AI arms race, shareholder activism, i.e. internal pressure that shifts the balance of market pressure, could be a very promising vehicle, especially compared to people just lobbing complaints in from the outside. Moving to the geopolitics of AI for a moment, an update in a story that we've been covering, which is the United Arab Emirates company G42. We recently had that big New York Times feature about them and speculated a little bit about the nature of their relationship with OpenAI, which was just announced in October. And part of the tension was that they were deeply enmeshed with both China and the US. However, it appears that they are no longer able to be any sort of neutral middle, and the Financial Times reports, quote, UAE's top AI group vows to phase out Chinese hardware to appease US. Abu Dhabi-backed G42 says it cannot work with both sides and retain access to American-made AI chips. Said Chief Executive Peng Xiao, "For better or worse as a commercial company, we are in a position where we have to make a choice. We cannot work with both sides. We can't." Now, depending on your take, this could be an example of US policy and pressure actually working, at least in terms of its stated objectives of denying China access to advanced AI infrastructure. It's a really interesting one for sure, and certainly something I'm going to continue watching. Lastly, I want to call out a viral project that has been flying all around Twitter/X this week called Magic Animate. It's basically a model by which you can take a static image, which can be from the world or can be generated by something like Midjourney or DALL-E 3, reference it against a motion file from Meta's DensePose, and get an actual animation of that seed image that follows the motion from the reference file. I actually just did a tutorial of this for the AI Breakdown Learning Community beta that is happening right now. We're just coming to the close of the first week of this beta, where we are doing tutorials, sharing case studies, and participating in follow-up challenges that get people actually trying tools. Now, just before the main part of this episode, I'm going to share a little bit more about how you can get involved in January if that's something that's interesting to you. But for now, if you're interested, go on Twitter/X and see some very cool things indeed. However, that is going to do it for today's AI Breakdown Brief. Next up, the main AI Breakdown.